Now we are. You can post.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I am Governor Spencer Cox, and I have the pleasure today of hosting the first One Utah Student Town Hall. I believe in helping young leaders learn and grow by listening to them and providing platforms to share their voices. Leading with equity and inclusion starts at a young age, and the students that are joining us today have shown great leadership through their academic achievements and civil and civic participation in our state. So let's get started. To begin, we will have our first leader joining us, and each student will introduce themselves, their grade, and the school they represent. And then the student will leave the meeting shortly after that, and I'll get a chance to respond to their questions. And we're excited to have so many great students with us today. So with that, let's go to our first student.
Hello, my name is Emma Sosa. I'm in 8th grade here at West Jordan Middle School. And I would like to know your thoughts on bringing back, if we will bring back masks during the flu season later in December or November.
Emma, thank you so much for that question. So of course, we've had masks in place in education for quite a while with this global pandemic that we're facing. And so your question is about flu season coming up next year, and will we bring masks back? I certainly hope not. I don't anticipate that we will have masks anymore after this year, after giving people an opportunity to get vaccinated. Of course, we want people to be safe. There are some things we've learned during this pandemic. One is that if you are sick, we would encourage people to stay home. And hopefully now we have resources for kids who are at home when they can't be at school so that they don't fall far behind. That's important. Now, we do have people that are at risk. I have a sister who has cystic fibrosis, and she wears a mask often during flu season to protect her and to protect her family. And so I suspect that there are some people who may be at higher risk who will wear masks, but I don't anticipate we will have masks anymore for students in school as a requirement moving forward. Thank you. Okay, next question.
Hi, sorry, my camera is giving me some troubles. It was working earlier.
That's okay, Jackson. We can hear you.
Okay, I'm just gonna go. I'm sorry about that. So my name's Jackson Trotter. I'm from Ogden High School and I'm a senior. And I've been going and seeing this impact of COVID-19 on our daily lives, and it's been huge for everyone. However, in my opinion, it's impacted our elementary school students the most. How can we help them to get caught up and adjusted to this new normal in our lives?
Jackson, thank you. And I'm sorry about the camera. We're all learning that this new technology works great most of the time, but not all of the time. And so thank you for joining us and asking this question. You're absolutely right that kids have been impacted significantly during this virus. I have two kids, one in high school, one in middle school. I don't have any in elementary right now, but I have lots of nieces and nephews who are in elementary as well. And I've seen the impacts that this has had. We are lucky, very fortunate, as we are one of the very few states in the country that has been open in almost all of our school districts for this entire school year. That's allowed us to not fall as far behind as kids in many other states. But you are right that there are kids impacted, especially in elementary school. So we worked really hard with the legislature to provide additional funding to help kids who are at risk, to make sure that they are not being left behind, that we give them the additional resources necessary to be able to catch up. We also have lots of funding that is coming from the federal government through the pandemic response that will allow us to get additional resources into schools. And we want to make sure that there is no child that is being left out or being forgotten, that we really focus on those who are most at risk. Some kids have done just fine through this and aren't behind at all, but to others, they're going to need a little additional attention, some one-on-one time, maybe some tutoring, some mentoring, some after school help or help during the summer. And we want to make sure that those helps are available to all of our kids, so that the Utah kids make sure that we're always at the top of the class, and that they have the opportunities and successes that any other child has once this pandemic is over. Thank you so much, Jackson. All right, let's go to our third question. I think this one's coming from Skyline High School.
Yes, hello, Governor. Thank you so much for conducting this town hall with us today. My name is Arushi Verma, and I'm a current senior at Skyline High School. And my question is, Utah's sex education curriculum has often been cited as limiting, with particular emphasis on abstinence and no requirement that school boards teach or adopt instructional materials that include information on contraceptive methods or devices, often leaving many students underinformed. In addition, you support the right to life, with contraceptives being the best prevention of unwanted pregnancies. Do you have any plans to enact change in Utah's sex education curriculum? And if so, what exactly will you implement?
Thank you, Arushi, for your very insightful question. This is a tough one, and one that has been argued about in the legislature and in local school districts for a long time. Interesting to note, I mentioned that I have two kids, one in middle school and one in high school. We had this exact conversation just last week in our own home, which is a great place to have these conversations. And certainly the best place to have these conversations are at home, where parents can interact with their children and teach them about sex education, what is right, what is wrong, what is best for them, and how to keep them safe. But you're also intrinsic in your question is this idea that is not happening in every household. Right now, Utah law doesn't allow the governor to make those decisions. Those decisions are left to local school boards, and we encourage you, wherever you are, to reach out to your local school boards and make sure that the sex education that is being taught there is the type of education that is best for you and for other students. Now, you mentioned the right to life, and you're absolutely right. This is something that I've certainly pushed for, is changing a little bit the way that, as I'll be perfectly honest, that Republicans, as I am, talk about these issues. The right to life means lots of different things. And of course, to me, it means protecting the life of the unborn. But the best way to do that and to prevent abortions is to make sure that unwanted pregnancies don't occur in the first place. And one way to do that is better education of young people. Now, you mentioned that abstinence is taught in our schools, and that is correct. It is scientifically the best way to avoid unwanted pregnancy or sexually transmitted diseases. However, we understand that that is not going to be the case for all kids and all students. And so it is important that we have good education and the students understand the best ways to protect their health and the best ways to prevent unwanted pregnancies. And so I would encourage local school districts. Many of them do, by the way, teach those very things that you talked about. And we need more of that. And I'm hoping that we can have better sex education in our schools moving forward. Thank you. Great question. Okay, we have our next one comes from West Jordan Middle School.
Hello, my name is Austin Poitras, and I am in 8th grade at West Jordan Middle School. My question is, what are you and the state actively doing to help prevent gun violence in schools?
Austin, thank you. I have an 8th grader as well. It's a great age, and I hope you're enjoying middle school there in West Jordan. Unfortunately and tragically, we have had too many experiences across the country with gun violence, and specifically gun violence in schools. Utah prohibits any person from possessing firearms in a place that person knows or has reasonable cause to believe is on or about school premises. And so that's important as a starting point. We also know that it is illegal for students to bring weapons to school. And under Utah law, any student in a public elementary or secondary school who possesses a firearm will be expelled for a period of not less than a year. And so but there's more that we can do and that we're working to do. We've worked very closely. There's a model that came out of Virginia, working with public health, public safety, as well as local school districts to invest in safety measures. This really came out of the Parkland shooting and some things we started before, but things like secured entry cameras and single point of access to make sure that that we prevent those that would do harm from coming into schools. We're also, I believe, the only state that has commissioned a study, and we're in the process of doing that right now, around what we call rampage violence, which is very different than targeted violence or specific violence. But we've seen evidence of rampage violence where people indiscriminately come in and are bent on taking the lives of innocent people without care or regard for the lives of anyone. Trying to understand what is at the root of that rampage violence. That report should be coming out in a few months here in the state of Utah. We're very interested in working with public safety professionals and others to see what that means. And the final thing that I would say, and this is maybe the most important case study, we know that in almost every case of school violence that we've seen, there have been serious mental health issues that have gone unchallenged or that have been unfixed. And so we have some resources available in every one of our schools. We have the Safe Utah app, which is one of a kind and something that every other state is looking at now because of the success we've had there. Hopefully you all have the Safe Utah app on your devices. It gives you an opportunity, if you're struggling, to reach out to a mental health professional who can help you. Also, if you know someone who in your class or someone in your school who is struggling, you can also reach out and get them help. And it can be done anonymously as well. And certainly if there is a threat of violence that you are aware of, there is an opportunity to report that threat. Again, you can do so anonymously and make sure that we prevent that violence from happening. We've actually had some instances where kids did report a potential threat of violence, and we were able to intervene and stop that from happening. So we are committed to doing everything we can to keep schools safe and to make sure you have a healthy and happy environment and free from any type of harm that would injure you or cause any loss of life. So again, really great questions. Thank you, Austin, for asking that. All right, next, let's go to Park City High School.
Hello, Governor Cox. Thank you for taking our questions today. My name is Caroline Waldman, and I'm a senior at Park City High School. My question for you today is many popular projects to increase Utahns' access to water, including the Lake Powell pipeline, cut through sacred and culturally significant lands. What legislation do you support that will respect these lands while providing Utah with the water we need?
Thank you, Caroline. You know, let me just share, I had a really amazing experience this past week. As some of you know, we have national monuments in our state, and some of them aren't controversial, but some of them are very controversial. We have two national monuments that are very controversial, mainly in their size, not in their existence, but in how big they are. In that they're larger than some states, well over 1 million acres in the cases of two of those, the Grand Staircase Escalante National Monument and then the Bears Ears National Monument. This past week, I had an opportunity to meet with the new Secretary of the Interior, Secretary Holland. She is Native American. She comes from the state of New Mexico. She's just a brilliant and wonderful human being and person. Had the opportunity to meet with her. Also had the opportunity to meet with some of the tribal elders from that region. We had elders from the Hopi tribe, the Zuni tribe who joined us for most of the trip. And then we had some Navajo leaders who joined us a little bit later. And during that, we were in some of those very sacred areas that you talked about. And a few of us, a very small group of us, were able to peel off and go down into a canyon, a gorgeous canyon with some artifacts and some historic preservation sites. There's also a spring that comes out of that water, and I was able to meet with the Hopi and the Zuni elder. They talked about the sacredness of these waters, these headwaters, and what it meant for their people historically and for their people now. and they offered sacred prayers there, and then they gave me the opportunity to offer a prayer as well, with some cornmeal that they had harvested themselves, that they put in the headwaters there to bless their nation and to ask their God to and their creator to benefit the people of their tribes with their crops, and make sure that they had a plentiful and bounteous season. I only share that with you because I think that that's how we overcome so many of the divides that we have in our country, is by spending time together and getting to know people. When we're proximate to people, when we're close to one another, it gets harder to other them, or we still may have disagreements, but we can disagree respectfully, and most importantly, we can work on common ground. And so what we have proposed, and we had several members of Congress there as well. Congressman Curtis, Congressman Moore were there with me at Bears Ears. Senator Mitt Romney was with me at Bears Ears. The others were with the secretary at the Grand Staircase. But we actually have proposed working on legislation together that would preserve these sacred sites, and make sure that the history, the culture of those sites is saved, is guarded, so that future generations can enjoy those as well. But also that we can work together on those important projects of making sure that they have water. Unfortunately, we still have many places where our Native Americans live that do not have water. In fact, we've been working for decades on a huge water project that was finally approved by Congress just a year ago. We appropriated millions of dollars from the legislature in Utah this year to help pay for that. This Navajo water project that will bring water to so many of the homes in that area that do not have water now. So it's not choosing one or the other, it's choosing both, but doing it together in a way that will protect and preserve these lands, and make sure that the sacred nature of them is there for our children and grandchildren, and for their children and grandchildren as well. So great question, and thank you. Okay, next up we have, speaking of Southern Utah, I think we have someone from Tuacahn High School.
Hello, my name is Gabriela Merida. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm in 12th grade and I go to Tuacahn High School for the Arts. According to the results of the 2019 SHARP survey, gay and lesbian teens in Utah were more than twice as likely as their heterosexual classmates to say they felt sad or hopeless every day for 2 weeks or more. 15% of heterosexual students said they had seriously considered suicide in the past year, compared to 48% of gay and lesbian students who said the same thing. Bisexual students were even more at risk, with 68% saying they felt sad or hopeless every day for 2 weeks or more, and 53% saying they had seriously considered suicide. This data suggests that LGBTQ+ youth disproportionately have more mental health needs than their heterosexual peers in Utah. In my experience as a bisexual woman, and from what I've heard from my LGBTQ+ peers, is that there are not enough mental health resources available to students at the schools. Implementing more mental health resources in schools is crucial to the safety of students, especially LGBTQ+ students. What is the state's plan to fund and pass legislation for more mental health resources, specifically mental health therapists at each school?
Well, thank you so much, Gabby, for that question. And my preferred pronouns are he, him, and his. So thank you for sharing yours with me. That SHARP survey is something that I've reviewed very closely, and it's something that's deeply concerning. Let me state that this is an important issue for all students in the state of Utah, not just for our LGBTQ students. But you are right that those numbers are even worse, unfortunately, amongst that subset of students in the state. And I want to thank you for your courage in asking that question, and let you know how critical it is for all of us that we improve mental health in the state, and that we reduce suicide and suicide ideation. We want everyone to feel welcome. We want everyone to feel included. We want everyone to feel safe. And we want everyone to understand that they belong. My message to all of you is that you do belong, that we need you here. No matter what you're feeling or what you're thinking, this world is a better place with you in it. And so please stay. Now, the question was, what resources are we getting out there? we, a couple of years ago, when I was Lieutenant Governor and Governor Herbert was here, we put a major priority on additional funding for counselors in schools, in every school, trying to get counselors in every single school. Now, we're not quite there yet, but we got a lot closer. I think it was about $26 million, if my memory serves me correct, that we were able to put into place to get more counselors in high school. Now, the question is, what else are we going to do? So I'm happy to report that the legislature has just passed a few more bills to help with this. I can share a couple of those with you if I can pull them up here. So one of the things we've learned through this pandemic is that we can deliver mental health services without having to be in person. Now, in person is great, and it's better when it can be accomplished. But with telehealth now, with these very tools that we're using right now to talk to each other, we can actually have more counselors meeting with more students wherever they are. And so SB 41 allows mental health appointments through telehealth, which is a good thing. We had another one, HB 262, which allows more children access to health insurance to help pay for those services that are necessary, which is a big deal. We had another bill, HB 337, which increases access to mental health services for children, and HB 292, which increases access to treatment for children with autism who often struggle and don't have the resources for families that they need. And then one we're very excited about, and this is one where Utah is leading the nation. Now, it's not ready yet, but we're getting closer. We talked about the Safe Utah app. And again, I hope all of you have that, because that's an instant way to get some counseling. If you are having a crisis in your life right now, you can use that app. But we're creating, just like 911, everyone knows 911 if you have a physical emergency that you can dial. Utah decided a few years ago, we wanted 3-digit dialing for mental health crises. And that takes a lot of change. It took a tremendous amount of work over the course of many years, but we finally got Congress to act on that. And in the months to come, it will be creating a new hotline, which is 988. So it's not there yet, but remember that in the future, 988 will be a place where people can immediately dial, just like 911, and get some professional counseling to help them through a mental health crisis. So thank you again for your work. The last thing I will say is we need people to reach out to friends and just ask the question. Ask if they've thought about suicide. And if the answer is yes, then ask if it's okay if you talk to someone, if you can get them some help, and talk to a parent, talk to a counselor, talk to a teacher. There are so many people who have access to resources who can help if we will just ask the question and be that friend who gets them the help that they need, so we don't lose anymore. Remember, we need you to stay. So thank you for that question. Okay, I think we've got just a couple others left. Let's go ahead and go out to one of our rural high schools. Let's go out to Emory High School, just over the mountain from North Sanpete High School, where I went to school.
Hi, my name is Dallin Braun. I'm from Emory County, Utah, and I go to Emory High. I'm a junior. And my question is, why is it that the middle class people feel like their rights are being infringed upon by extremists? And what are you going to do to make it so the middle class has a say?
Well, thank you, Dallin, for the question. Politics has become incredibly divisive in our country, less so in the state of Utah, but certainly we've seen some of that. It's true that very often our political system rewards the loudest voices and sometimes the most extreme and the fringes out there, and that's something that is deeply concerning. We need more people to get involved and run for office because it's hard. Because it's so toxic out there, there are a lot of really good people who don't want anything to do with politics. A lot of people in the middle who say, you know what, it's just not worth it. I don't want to be attacked on Facebook or Twitter, social media. I'm tired of people yelling and fighting, and so they stay away. And so what I encourage is for people to get involved. We need young people. I always tell young people that you're going to solve all of the problems that we're making right now. We're working hard to do better, but I trust that there is a future generation and that you are that future generation. that will see the world a little differently, that will look for ways to bring people together and not be as divisive, to understand that there are right ways to get your voice heard and wrong ways to get your voice heard. We don't need to attack and tear down, but what we do need to do is convince and build up, and persuasion instead of hate and that toxic rhetoric will always do more to build bridges, to solve problems, and to make our country a better place to live. And so let's not let the extreme voices drown us out. Let's make sure that more of you get involved. I encourage your parents to get involved. One of the best ways to do that is just to vote. When you're a senior this year, make sure that when you turn 18, you get registered to vote, and that you cast that vote. But then go a step further. Volunteer in your community. Give back. Government was never designed to solve all of our problems. We need people in our communities to work together to solve those problems. So let's not just rely on Washington, D.C. to figure all of this out, because that's never going to happen. Let's do it in each of our communities and make it a better place. Great question. Thank you. Okay, I think we have time for one more, and we're going to go out to Springville High School.
Hi, Governor Cox. Thank you so much. This is a great opportunity. My name is Paige Ballard, and I'm a junior at Springville High School. My question is, as students in a leadership position at our schools, what responsibilities and opportunities do we have to serve in our communities? What areas can most benefit from student involvement?
Well, thank you, Paige. I mentioned this just a little bit in my last answer, but first of all, just participating in this today is a great way to get involved. But I've been so impressed with young people, especially during this pandemic, as we've seen. Unfortunately, we've seen some of the worst of humankind during this pandemic, but more importantly, here in Utah, we've seen the best. And as students, sometimes I think as adults, we undervalue or underappreciate the capacity of our young people, and especially the capacity to do good. You are, I say this sincerely. I don't say this as a politician hoping to get future voters' support at all. I mean this because I've seen it. I've seen it with my own kids. I have a son who's a senior this year. I've seen him and his friends and others, the way that they are working to try to make their school a better place. Obviously, there are volunteer opportunities in your school and in your community. I would encourage you to do that. Right now, there are people who are hurting. Our food banks are being taxed in a way that they've never been taxed before. There are opportunities for you to volunteer in food banks, to stock shelves, to gather food, to help others who are in need right now. There are so many other opportunities, but I would say most importantly is to look around you. You know, there are people that are struggling that we don't know about. But if you open your eyes and just pay attention, you'll find them. They might be sitting next to you in class right now. They may be a friend who you thought you knew, but maybe you don't actually know what's happening in their home and what they're going through. So much of what society needs and what our world needs today is just a friend. Someone they love, someone who they can share their deepest concerns and their greatest hopes with. That's what's missing today. We live in this world that is so connected digitally. You have more opportunity. You have friends on Facebook, followers on Instagram, people on Twitter, but it's not the same. It's not the same as being able to sit by someone, to talk to them until late into the night about what's happening in their lives and about what they need and what they're going through. And then when you're struggling, someone that can listen to you and can help you out too. So look for those opportunities to volunteer. I worry that we put too much pressure on you guys sometimes to succeed. You have to be the best in your class, the best football player, the best violin player, the best musician, the smartest student, have the best grades. All of those things are important. Don't get me wrong. Don't go home and tell your mom or dad or your teacher that the governor said not to care about those things. That's not what I'm saying at all. But what I am saying is there are more important things in this world, and we have to have balance in our lives. It's something I continue to learn. And that balance includes having fun. That balance includes having friends. And that balance includes serving and giving back. Those are the things that make us happiest and help us keep this life and this world in perspective. I know many of you are doing that. I'm so proud of you, so proud to be your governor. I feel grateful for this opportunity. I want to thank all of you for those questions. You didn't take it easy on me. You asked the hard questions. I apologize for not always having the right answers or all of the answers, but I want you to know that there are lots of people that are in your corner. We're pulling for you. We're working really hard to give you the very best education possible to make sure that you have every opportunity in this world to have success, to dream your wildest dreams and have them come true. And even when they don't come true, even when those disappointments come, and they always do, that you'll have the tools and the resources necessary to overcome those disappointments and to find joy and happiness, even in the tough times. That's what we've seen over the past year. I've seen students who have thrived. I've seen students who have made it through the most difficult of circumstances and come out on the other side. And there's an incredibly bright future out there for each of you. Thanks for letting me be your governor. Keep up the great work, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Have a great day.